Good morning, guys, or good afternoon if it's afternoon, or good evening if it's good evening. We are looking at the next method to solve system of equations. It's called the elimination method. So far, what we've looked at is the graphing method, and these questions are not going to tell you which method to use. You got to know how to do that on your own. So you got to know what you're looking for. All right. So it's part of these questions is looking at them and determining which method you're going to use, like which one would be the best method. If the two equations that you're given are easily graphable, for lack of a better word, if that is a word, if you can graph them quite easily, I would use the graphing method because you already know how to graph. It's quite easy to put a line on the graph and see where they intersect, and that would be your answer. But if you don't know how to graph them, or it looks like it'd be a little bit tricky to graph them, you'd want to use a different method. The substitution method you are going to want to use if a variable is by itself. So if you have one equation in slope-intercept form, one in standard form. What we're going to look at now is if they are both written in standard form, which is what we have here for this first question. So let's look at this one and I'll show you how we're going to negotiate this question here. Let me get ready here. All right, so we'll just call this example 1. All right, so just kind of like substitution, like where you're substituting in an expression for a variable, we are going to eliminate one of the variables with these two equations, and we're going to do that by combining these together. And when we combine, we're either adding or subtracting. So what I want y'all to look at this as is we are going to subtract these two equations from one another. All right, when we subtract these, you're going to eliminate one of the variables because 4x minus 4x. So we're going to take the first equation and subtract it from the second equation. That's a subtraction sign. So we're going to say 4x minus 4x, that's 0, and that's what we wanted to happen. It eliminates one of the variables. We also have to do the y's. 12y minus 8y, that's going to give us 4y. And then 28 minus 20 would give us 8. 4y equals 8. That's a one-step equation. I've been doing that for 4 years now. Your y value is going to be 2. So let's put our ordered pair up here. The y value is 2. Make sure you put it in the second spot where the y value goes. Don't put it in where the x is. Now, how do we solve for x? Well, knowing that y is 2, we're going to plug 2 in for y into either one of those equations, whichever one looks like it might be a little bit easier. I can make the argument here that they're both about the same. So let's scroll down here just a little bit. If we know that y is 2, let's plug 2 in for this second equation, just because the numbers are just a little bit smaller. So we're going to say 4x plus 8, and we're going to put a 2 in for y, and that equals 20. So now this is a two-step equation, all right? So we're going to say 4x plus 16 equals 20. See, they take up a little bit of room to answer these questions. It's a little bit of algebra involved, but if you know the algebra, it's not that difficult. 4x equals 4. We're going to, over here would be 20 minus 16. That's a 20. Minus 16, and that's going to give you 4x equals 4. So your x value is obviously going to be 1. So you're going to put a 1 in where x goes right there. All right, so your ordered pair would be 1, 2. If you plug a 1 in for x, and you plug a 2 in for y, 4 times 1 is 4, 12 times 2 is 24, and 24 plus 4 will give you 28. So the left-hand side will equal the right-hand side in both of the equations, okay? So what we did is we combined them together, and we did that using subtraction, all right? Let us scroll down and look at another example here, because another thing about these is if you understood that example, awesome. Like, pause it, rewind it. If you didn't understand it, go back. You're going to answer them a little bit differently depending on what the question looks like. All right, so now here we have the two equations, but what would cancel is not the x's. What would cancel here would be the y's. So we're going to still subtract because y minus y would give you 0. Remember, the goal is to eliminate one of the variables. All right, so we're going to subtract these. So I'm going to put a subtraction sign here. We're going to subtract these two equations, okay? 3x minus 2x would give you 1x, or just x. This is going to be really easy because we're not going to have to divide by anything. Y minus y is 0. That's what we wanted to happen. We eliminated one of the variables. Now we have negative 10 minus negative 8. Use a calculator here. You can use a calculator. Don't get these questions wrong because you missed 10 minus negative 8. It's not negative 10 minus 8. That's going to give you negative 18. Negative 10 minus negative 8 is negative 2. Because a negative and a negative give you positive. Negative 10 plus 8 is negative 2. So we're going to put our ordered pair over here. Now we solved for x first. So we put a negative 2 in for x. All right. Again, both of the equations look about the same. I'm just going to use the second one because the numbers look like they're just a little bit smaller. But if you use the first one, that's no big deal. You can do that too. We're going to say 2, and in for x, we're going to put what x equals. Whoa, where are you going now? I wrote the second equation just like it's written. 2x plus y equals negative 8. But instead of x, I put a parentheses in there, and I'm going to put a negative 2 in for where that x should have gone. So it's going to be negative 4 plus y equals negative 8. And, you know, you do your boxes here. You're going to add 4 to both sides, and you're going to get y equals negative 8 plus 4. That would give you negative 4. So you're going to put a negative 4 right here. Test it to see if it's right. I'm going to plug them back in the first equation. If I put negative 2 in for x and I put a negative 4 in for y, it should equal negative 10. Let's see. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6 minus 4, because a plus and a minus, it would give you a minus. Negative 6 minus 4 is going to give you negative 10. Good. Just check and see how I'm doing on time. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to try this next one on your own, okay? So I want you to try this one here. I encourage you to stop the video. We're going to go over how to do this one in the next video. So give this one a try and see how you do, all right? Good job. I believe in you.